Dazed and Confused is well received and has achieved this cult classic like status since its short lived release in 1993, but I still don't think it gets the credit it deserves because most of the people I know who have seen this film use it as a glorification of drug culture when it's actually an indictment of those traditions that are passed on from generation to generation and have been since the 70s. The writer Richard Linklater wanted to write a film about the shitty parts of the 70s. He wanted to give an honest representation that would destabilize the glorification of the 70s, which is ironic given the film's wake. Linklater said this in an interview about Dazed and Confused. I was going to make something that really gets in the muck. I thought the 70s, it really sucked, so I'm going to show that in a movie. It was so naive of me. I really underestimated the power of cinema. And it really got me thinking because obviously I failed in my thinking that this could be anti-nostalgic. It's a lot like anti-war movies. Spielberg, oh, this is going to be the film that makes you never want to go to war. And it's like, no. People see Saving Private Ryan and they go, that first scene's pretty tough, but man, there's so much heroism. With Wall Street, Stone makes this critique of that world, and everyone wants to be a stockbroker. So you kind of can't represent it without endorsing it. I think that's just the power of the medium. It just pulls you in a way, so it's hard to make a film that's anti much of anything. You could watch most of the film and pawn it off as a romanticized statement of the youth drug scene in America, which feels sincere. Apparently, Linklater wanted the cast to throw in their own lines and improv a bit. But by the end, there's this scene that is conspicuously alluding to a more complex and sinister sentiment lurking below. This one look that Randall has when they're on the football field and his buddy Don says,
But you gotta think about it. We've had a lot of really good times right here, Peg.
And you guys are kings of the school. You get away with whatever you want. What are you bitching about?
Well, look, all I'm saying is that if I ever start referring to these as the best years of my life, remind me to kill myself.
Well, all I'm saying is I just want to look back and say that I did it the best I could while I was stuck in this place. Had as much fun as I could when I was stuck in this place. Played as hard as I could when I was stuck in this place.
They all know that their worlds will change dramatically by the same time the following year, and while the traditions that they have are fun, the culture they learned and teach and are now perpetuating, they are also captive to the changes that are coming, and these traditions are all they have until then. Dazed and Confused is a profound statement on youth culture in America, for better or worse, that is Trojan horsed by the stoner classic reputation the movie has adopted. I think it's about the semblance of freedom experience in high school that exists in a vacuum and the kind of permissible self-medicating that is learned and taught in response to that captivity. That fantasy exists in contrast to the real-world responsibilities that are closing in on everyone, a notion that is only hinted at in expressions and passing comments, because this is the first day of their last summer and none of them are looking beyond that. There are glimmers of this kind of overarching toxicity that encompass the traditions of this small town, which are traditions most people who have been through the American public education system can relate with, even though this movie is set almost 50 years ago. One of the cracks in the engine block of the fantasy that people project onto this movie is the allusion to American history that resurfaces throughout the entire film. The middle school bell rings, and as the students are leaving, the teacher, as her final message to her students before they begin summer in high school, is,
"Don't forget what you're celebrating, and that's the fact that a bunch of slave-owning, aristocratic white males didn't want to pay their taxes."
Obviously, this statement alone would make me think that this is an innocuous statement reflecting the teacher's personal views. But then Slater talks about how George Washington owned cannabis, and throughout the film there are these subtle jabs at American traditions and the contradictions they are founded on, which is ironic given the traditions that the students are simultaneously taking part in and perpetuating. This new class of students isn't only being hazed, they are being taught how to haze. They aren't only doing drugs, they are being taught that drugs and hazing are the things they are entitled to, which supersedes school, sports, and family. It is everything, and that sentiment is expected by the teachers, the parents, the coaches, who all have their own punishments for it, or controls they're trying to impose to prevent it, but are ultimately complicit in it as a result of their participation or lack thereof.
Hi, Mom.
Okay, Mitchell. This is your one get-out-of-jail-free card. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Another allusion to this is when Mike, speaking on the girls' hazing rituals, says,
The way not only the school, but the entire community seems to be supporting this, or at least turn their heads. I mean, they apparently have permission to use the parking lot.
Right.
No parents seem to mind,
Or when Simone, constantly a Hayes freshman, says,
I did it when I was a freshman, and you'll do it when you're a senior. You're doomed.
there's a duality to the semblance of freedom these characters experience because it contrasts the captivity within that same institution. The film is a portrait of these redundancies and contradictions that form the walls, whether they realize it or not. Being hazed and then later the hazer. 8th graders becoming freshmen and doing drugs with juniors becoming seniors. The last day of school and the first day of summer. Football contracts and Aerosmith tickets. McConaughey's character being the fucking loser that he is despite everyone thinking he's cool.
When he graduated, we were like 3 years old. Oh.
Dazed and Confused is an indictment on the systems that compartmentalize the individual, but is also an endorsement of human nature being able to steal joy from anything possible in spite of that system. Maybe the pinnacle of that was in the 1970s, and in that way it was the origin of this mass movement of self-medicating, or that was just another year of American teenage inebriation. It's a film about drugs, though, as much as The Graduate is a film about love. There's something below the surface pulling us deeper into this temporary feeling of being witnessed or exposed or used by the traditions that we pass down, and maybe even force on the next generation because we want them to experience the same things we have, traditions that we have become complicit with for better or worse.